Well everybody, today we're returning to Raven Rock and we're going to cover some of the history from both Morrowind all the way through to the Dragonborn DLC. But first let's just cover some of the changes. The first Dragonborn is building new temples to himself in the Dragonborn DLC. These didn't exist in the Morrowind days, so they're new. The eruption of Red Mountain has covered the whole island in ash. So now Raven Rock has tall walls to keep the ash out and prevent it being crushed by the sheer bulk of ash that fell on the island during the Red Year. This is why you have such high walls and everything is grey. It used to be a green place with grass and trees and things like that, but that ended 200 years ago when Red Mountain erupted. Now, why did it erupt? Well, in the DLC, in the Dragonborn DLC, we see various people commenting on the new temple and old temple, and they don't get deeply into it. They just cover the basics of it. But in Morrowind, the Neverwhere met with the dissidents who said that Vivek was lying, that the tribunal temple was hiding the truth from the people of Morrowind. And the dissidents were out to uncover the truth and make it known. In the Dragonborn DLC, the dissidents are the ones running the temples. They run the new temple. And Vivek and that have been relegated from gods down to saints. So they're no longer worshipped in the same way they used to be, which is the biggest change.
The House of Troubles refers to Malakath, Mehrunes Dagon, Molag Bal, and Sheogoran. When Vivek and the other saints established the old temple, they set themselves up as gods, something we now know to have been a mistake. The Daedra that we refer to as the House of Troubles were opposed to that, and would tempt followers of the temple off the rightful path. Temple followers have had their faith tested in this way ever since. Even though we know the tribunal to have been a mistake, we still treat them as saints, and so we still have the House of Troubles.
This particular change is why the new temple exists. The old temple is swept aside. The dissidents who used to be in hiding because the temple would hunt them down are now the ones running the place, and the old temple priests are now the ones in hiding because they're no longer, they're no longer in power and their ways have gone. But they believe that their ways will return, that Vivek is testing them, and that the old days, says might be gone, but the new days will feature the return of Vivek himself and all the rest of it.
Have you come to join the temple? Yes, Outlander, but understand, a person with two faiths is faithful to neither. You either believe in our ways or you do not. There is no supporting both sides where matters of faith are concerned. Then I welcome you to the tribunal. Speak to the other priests about your duties. We are followers of Al-Malexia, Zophasil, and Vivek. This is our time of testing, the time when our gods test our faith. Yes, this is the time when Vivek tests the faith of all Dumna. The dissidents are the means of our testing. Vivek will be the judge. When Lyrock tried to destroy Vivek City, Vivek held it back with his love for his people. We then turned Lyrock into the Ministry of Truth.
That was it, Ministry of Truth.
Vivek warned us, if the love of the people of this city for me ever disappears, so shall the power that holds back their destruction. The new temple is made up of dissidents who use the Neverwhere to cast doubt in the minds of the Dumna over Vivek's godhood. Sad opportunists that eroded the love the people once held for Vivek. As this love eroded, Vivek left us, but still kept Lyra from destroying Vivek City for a time. When the dissidents eroded the people's love for Vivek even further, the The love that had held back Lyrock disappeared. The dissidents, having diminished the love the people felt for Vivek, caused Lyrock to smash into Vivek City, destroying it utterly. Vivek punished the unfaithful. The dissidents claim the destruction of Vivek City proves Vivek was not a god, and many believed them. The people's love for Vivek diminished even further, so Red Mountain erupted, killing even more of the unfaithful. But we know from Vivek's sermons that he foresaw this. Lyrock became a means to punish the unfaithful and test our own faith. Vivek left us to be tested and will one day return. The faithful will be rewarded when that day comes. Vivek will then punish the unfaithful dissidents and restore the temple tribunal.
But anyway, the point is that the new temple is the dissidents and the old temple is the followers, is the tribunal. And that's one of the changes that we see in Dragonborn DLC, which is only just covered, which is added to and expanded upon by one of my own mods, the Solstheim mod, which I've labelled clearly in the video so you can see which parts were added by the mod to expand on existing lore, which Bethesda had put in the game but didn't really explain very well. Now, the Neverwhere himself was the hero of Morrowind. He basically went around, becoming the champion of each of the houses in Morrowind, and then took on the bad guys and won. But by the time we get to Solstheim, he's arriving at Fort Frostmoor to do missions for the Empire and whoever's the governor there at the time. And one of the missions was to build Raven Rock, a mining town, inside, says Solstheim, or on Solstheim. Solstheim itself was a very desolate place full of werewolves and wild creatures and things like that. In many ways it hasn't changed in that way, other than the fact it's now grey instead of green. It used to be grey or frosty, or green and frosty, now it's grey and frosty. So, there's not a lot of change there, but the settlement itself, the mine ran dry. It was just ran out of ebony, so the Empire abandoned it, and they gave it to the people of Morrowind after the Red Year as a place where the refugees could go. Raven Rock's been fairly poor since then. It's been run by the Red Run Guard. The Red Run Guard itself, they saved Morrowind during the Argon invasion. They're the ones that fought it off successfully and became heroes, the effective rulers of Morrowind today. Blacklight being the new capital, because Mournhold was sacked by the Argonians, and many people many Dumna that lived in Mournhold were forced to leave and flee and became refugees. You see that in Windhelm and other places where they disappeared to, but they also went to Raven Rock. House Alula, which was closely aligned with the Empire, became an outcast house in Morrowind because they basically were a bit too close to the enemy, the Empire. And as a consequence, they don't hold the same power they used to hold. We see this in the Morrowind, in the storyline for the Dragonborn DLC, where some House Alula people are trying to kill the councillor, the Red Run Guard councillor. Or the House Red Run Councillor, should I say. So you can see that they're now outcasts themselves. The old ways are gone, the Empire's moved out of Morrowind, Morrowind's back in charge of its own destiny. Raven Rock is a symptom of that. They're still friendly, it's just a question of Morrowind is Morrowind now, not an Imperial settlement. Now, if you actually go exploring the island, further down you'll find Tel Mithrin. It's Nelof's place. I've expanded upon that. I made it more of a Telvanni settlement by adding a few shops and things and a place where you could go to join the Telvanni and become a wizard there. This is added by the Dark Lord Grimoire mod. The Dark Lord Grimoire mod itself is quite a complex mod, and it makes it so the spells can be learned by practicing previous spells. So you practice an easier spell, your levels go up, your stats go up, and as you meet certain requirements, you're given for free all the new spells because you practiced until you've learned these things, then suddenly you know them. It's a very natural way of learning the next generation of spells. And I've separated spells into sort of Dark Law, the Dark Law Grimoire ones, into Mage's Guild spells, Necromancer spells, Telvanni spells. So depending on where you go, you learn different spells. But the Telvanni tend to have the most spells because they don't care. They've got no morality to hold them back.
It is a pleasure, Outlander. Master Neloth was once the leader of the Telvanni Council, until Master Gothrin Jr. forced him to flee for his life. That was why Master Neloth came here to Solstheim. He hopes to return and reclaim his seat on the council in the future.
It is the only place where silt striders can be found. Although I managed to transplant a few here when I arrived.
From that look on your face, I'm guessing you've never seen a silt strider before. This is Dusty. I personally trained her from a lava. Feels like a lifetime ago now. She hasn't been in travelling condition for quite a while now. I've tried to let it go off on her own, but she insists on staying here. We get by trading odds and ends with the locals. I've decided to stay here and make sure she passes in peace. It's the least I can do for her. Every once in a while, a local makes it out here, although they usually just want to catch a glimpse of Dusty. Silt striders are pretty rare now.
Now here's the thing that most people will remember from Morrowind. Every faction had certain skill requirements.
I am very happy to make her acquaintance. I'm sorry, unless you are capable of casting powerful spells, you are useless to us.
And then you've got the Mogratong.
Afraid not. If you did, I would not be doing my job.
There you go. This is a mission from the Solstheim mod.
I am Dalty. I am here recruiting for my order. We carry out legally binding contracts with clients within Morrowind. Sometimes outside Morrowind too. Executions mostly. We receive legally binding writs of execution from people within Morrowind and see to it that the writ is carried out. I am Grandmaster Dalty of the Mogratong, and I am the one who recruits new members into our order. But only those who have the necessary skill. Our order has a reputation for being efficient and effective at what we do. If you have the required skills, yes. A basic knowledge of illusion, one-handed weapons, bows, and stealth are the starting requirements I seek. Do you have those skills? When you have honed your skills a little more, come back and speak to me again.
The Mogratong themselves, they also exist in Morrowind, in Solstheim. I've added a whole guild for them in part of the Solstheim mod, and you can do missions for them, but they too have requirements. They need, I think it's one-handed weapons, heavy sneak, archery, illusion, and you need to be basic levels for them. That's 25 apprentice level. But if you actually do get into it, you get taught some deadly poisons, how to make some better arrows, and these make archery into more of an assassin's weapon. So they're very good, but you'll need Nightshade and Dragonbone for that. Now House Redrun, the Redrun Guard, you can even join them and help defend Raven Rock with the Solstheim mod. they have requirements, which I believe is block, heavy armour, one-handed weapons, and you've got to be a member of the temple, which is why you have 2 temple features in there. You have the old temple and new temple. The Veteran Guard don't care which temple you're a member of, as long as you're a member of one of the temples. Also, the temple features. Now, there's various shrines scattered around Solstheim, and the new temple only supports 3 of the Deirdre, not 6. The House of Troubles are frowned upon. If you pray at any of the House of Troubles stones, you'll be cast out of the temple, and that would cause problems with Veteran Guard. So you have to understand which ones are frowned upon, and you have to play the part properly. So you have to stay with Bufia, Azura, and Mephala. Mephala being one of the Deirdre that the Mogratong follow. The Mogratong Guild is very religious and very solemn. You have to pray at one of the shrines to get the next mission, for example. So it's very deep. It does delve quite heavily into the Mogratong law, so it can keep you rooted in Morrowind lore when you're doing their missions. Overall, though, so what I've tried to do is try to build up everything you see in Morrowind and Raven Rock. Try to build on that, not change it, just build on that. Bring the stuff to the forefront. Give these backstories a bit more. What's the word for it? Put a bit more meat on the bones, so you can explore these aspects of the game lore yourself in the game. Raven Rock's special in a way, because if you actually play through it, even without my mods, it's really, really deep and meaningful. It's got so much lore and history because of the Neverwhere and the Morrowind game adding it, says that you can just go through it. I felt that I couldn't get enough of Raven Rock, so I added much, much more of my own stuff to it to make it into the island I wanted it to be. And I'm happy to say I succeeded. I probably would like to add a few more features to Raven Rock, but you can already join the Guard, you can join the new temple or the old temple, you can join the Telvanni, the Mogratongs there, you can join them and do missions for them. All of it's deep and meaningful, there's new shops and everything, so it all works out quite well. The dragons and stuff from the first Dragonborn, that links things to the Septims and everything else, but it also shows the Dragonborn isn't always about the Empire. Anyhow, as you go around Solstheim, you see the islands and the maps, and you look at the old map and the new map, you start to see the difference.
This is strange. The note says it's from General Falk's Carius, but that's impossible. Well, Carius was the Imperial garrison commander at Fort Frostmoth, but he died over 200 years ago when the Red Mountain leveled the place.
The Raven Rock story, that's developed quite a lot between having the walls holding back the ash and the House Redrun taking it over and the player restoring the Ebony Mine to its former glory, and the Red Guard, or the Redrun Guard, shall I say, says being the heroes of Morrowind, having fought off the Argonians, and the House, well, and the Red Year when the Red Mountain erupted. It all adds to it. Says as for Vivek and the House of the Tribunal, that's a story in itself. Says with Vivek, holding back Line Rock until the people of Morrowind no longer believed in him, and then let it crash into Vivek City and destroy it, causing eruptions and Raven Rock at the same time. So there's quite a lot of deep, meaningful history there, and hopefully you would have seen much of it in this video from the clips that I've added. But if you haven't, just remember that there's a much to explore on your own in Raven Rock, and it is one of the better DLCs, the Dragonborn DLC, in the sense that it adds so much rich background to the game, and it updates us on the events since Morrowind, since Oblivion, and all the rest of it. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one.